Hi there. Good evening, afternoon, morning, whatever it might be on your end of the of the globe. Welcome to this new episode of OctoPrint Code and Chat. I'm your host Gina Heuske, and I'm going to do what I always do in this live stream format, and we'll just briefly start working on stuff. But before I do, the usual informational blah blah stuff first. There's a live chat, of course, and you can participate in this live stream, and I will also keep an eye on it. For me, it is up there. For you, it is either below or on your I think over there. Or was it there? Whatever. There, yeah, right. And I will be sharing my second screen with you in a moment, and then you will be able to see what I see, and we can look over the code together. And I have also increased the font sizes and all that, so that will hopefully work. Also, I hope you can hear me properly, because due to some stuff that I had to take care of, I didn't get a chance yet to test the sound and the audio, but I think it should work. And it's also like the levels in the software are showing positive things, so I'm just hoping everything is fine. We are just going to switch over to the other screen, I guess, and get this party started. So as I said, we are going to do bug fixing and maintenance today again, and I've decided to take a look at this ticket here, which has been bothering me for a while, or rather the issue reported here has been bothering me for a while, because it was also, some people mentioned it on the forums, and for some reason the live chat isn't populating here. Let me check what is up there, because of course it should. Wait. I'm struggling a bit with the webcam being in the way. Is not yet authorized to connect to YouTube. Now that is fun. So we are quickly going to switch back to me. And then let me quickly fix this. I have no idea why it decided to no longer work, because I certainly didn't change anything there. But yeah, that is not really helpful. Yeah, I'm just going to reauthorize this thing, and hopefully then it will work. Yeah, that already did it. So apparently it just lost its authorization for some reason. So there we are. Right. Where was I before I noticed this? Now it's also showing as. Oh, what the heck is going on here? It keeps losing its authorization now when I switch context? Is this right? Okay, well, okay, I'm going to simply stay like this, and hopefully then it will also stay authorized. So this is a bit weird, but okay, never mind. Right, so the problem with this ticket number 3547, which I'm also going to quickly add here so that you can, so that you know what we are working on. 3547. Yeah. So the problem there is that if you try to create a user account that only has read-only privileges, by only having it join the read-only user group, then OctoPrint will force you to that will force your user also into the users group. So giving it whatever privileges or whatever permissions you have defined on that, and that of course is a bit weird and not the intended behavior. The problem is that I'm not entirely sure yet how to tackle this, so we'll have to figure this out together. Because the way that permissions are handled in OctoPrint is a bit weird here and there in order to accommodate past behaviors. Past. So the way that things were before we introduced granular permissions. So that will will involve some deep diving, I guess. But we have a wonderful ticket here. I just want to take this moment to have you all admire that ticket. I mean, there are no logs, but in this specific case, we don't need logs because it's already perfectly fine outlined how it can be reproduced, and it also does work to reproduce like that. So yeah, but usually if this also had a link to a log, and this had a link to a log, and this had a link to a log, then that would be a complete and an utter full thumbs up. But the way that things are here is also great. Yeah, and Sean remarks that it works if you just remove all the permissions from the users group and then create a new group. That does work fine, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I want it to be that way. So it could be that in the end we come to the conclusion tonight here that this is the way that we'll have to work around this, because all other possible solutions make permission management way too complicated and way too so this is also a possible outcome here. But first I will try to dig into this and try to figure out if there is some way around it. Yeah, and this is what we're going to do. So let's dive into, and this was something I checked. I actually wanted to tackle another ticket first, but then I noticed that that was reported for 1312, and 140 fixes the exact issue. So I just quickly verified that and then could close the ticket. Okay, so the permission management lives here. And I think this is where we define the default groups, though I'm not entirely sure, and I'll have to check quickly. So this is the group manager, but apparently no default groups are getting defined here. Here we define some stuff. So where do we use this? Oh no, sorry, where do we use that? Find usage. Tum 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 tum. These are the defaults. Maybe we also just need a separate user group that is a read access group or something like that, that we then add additionally to the user group, which by default does not have any permissions, but I'm not entirely sure yet how best to solve that. So what I'm currently trying to figure out is where this assignment stuff even happens, and I quickly have to minimize something on the left screen, which keeps confusing the heck out of me right now. So yeah, let's leave it at that. The default groups get initial put. No. It should be somewhere where users are created, actually, I think. So in the default self-add group, user group. So these are the default groups that are being added to the user to the group manager. So we have admins, we have all logged in users, we have guests, and we have the read-only access thing. And if we put that on a user, then of course that stuff should win, but instead we get a mixture of these two, so the read-only gets completely cancelled out again by most of what is in the user group, and that of course is not ideal. So I think originally when I implemented that, the idea was that we would use the read-only group to assign read-only permissions to guests. Like by default, guests do not have any permission. So maybe I can quickly show you that. I hope that was the correct password that it had saved. And I also hope that... Why is it taking so long? Is it stuck in a breakpoint? It is stuck in a breakpoint. Yeah. Is it still stuck in another breakpoint or? Hello? Ah, well, okay, it just took a while. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is how it's currently being handled in the hopes that I did not modify the, yeah. So I think per default guests do not have any permissions, but what you can do then is you just say, okay, guests now get read-only access, and now they have everything that is defined here. And if I now, yeah, I don't have to save, I think, but still I will save. And then if I now log out, I think, yeah, I will get this read-only access. So that is nice and helpful. But now we of course get the challenge that maybe someone wants to define a read-only user that gets, so a logged in read-only user, and so the guest should still see nothing, but there will be accounts that have read-only access. And that is currently not possible because if I now, so I'm going to quickly revert that change that I did earlier. But if I now create a new user, let's say we call him Bob, and Bob has a very creative password, which is also Bob. And we're going to add Bob to read-only access. Then we can see that Bob is now in read-only access and in users. And thus Bob inherits everything that is here defined in users. And that's not perfect. The thing is that currently what happens when you have two groups is that it will take all the permissions from all the groups and just munch them together. So there is no priority modeling going on, which I also do not want to change because honestly that would just be a nightmare to maintain. You could just go here and remove all these permissions from the user, but yeah, then you have the problem that you now have to maintain a logged in user stock thing separately. So what we need is a way to define a user, but say, but tell him that, or rather, but define that they really only have this group and not this other one. And that is a concept that is currently not possible because all users will get assigned to the user group. And now the question, of course, is if we can even change that without having to rewrite most of the code base, which is a very possible scenario because that stuff is already complicated AF. And yeah. But yeah, we'll have to check that. So give me a moment because it's been a while since I dove into that code, and frankly, I have to wrap my head around it again in order to figure out how stuff works. If I add a new user, maybe let's start here. I add a new user. Then I it's probably this part here. Then I fetch all the permissions that have been supplied, and then I fetch all the groups that have been supplied. And if no groups have been supplied, then we use the default groups. So we are going to click on that to figure out what the default groups are on the group manager, which is that guy. If group is default. Okay, so we have to dig up the... Where was the users group defined again? Here. Yeah, and that group is default. So that will always be added. And that is something that we need to change here. Or rather, we need to change for that specific user that we want to add. So if we only want to read-only user. What we could do is maybe detect if the read-only group is applied. And in that case, have it by programmatically remove the user group. But frankly, I'm not entirely sure what other problems that might cause. Though I'm not, yeah, maybe none. It's a bit of a of an experimental situation here. Let me quickly take a swig from my water bottle. Okay, so if not groups. So if groups are set, it will not use the default groups. The question is, why don't we set it in the first place? So we are looking for the usages. Aaron asks if I can change the default flag if the read-only group is added. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that, so the flag isn't the problem here per se, but rather that I can have both groups at the same time. So maybe if I add some model that allows me to say if something like group negates another group, so that I could set on the set that flag on the read-only group so that it says if this is here, then negates the user group. That would be an option. But first of all, I want to figure out if I can maybe just solve this through a slightly different API call, so that when I want to add a user through the API, which is here, I actually can. So interesting. I should actually be able to model that without much or without large issues. So the thing is that right now we have to check what happens when I try to create a user. So we are going to delete Bob again. And then we are going to open the web development console, which is on the wrong side of the, let me, the problem is that the camera is in a way of finding the right context menu here. Sorry for the weird movements that I'm doing. Okay, and we're going to ignore that. I still have to take a look at this, but this is, yeah, not a problem for us right now. What we want is the network tab. We are in the network tab. What we want is the network tab visible. And then again, we are going to add Bob. And then we say that Bob belongs to read-only access. And I'm now really curious what will happen, because I would expect it to send it over with just this flag set, and then it should not be even trying to add that, even though it says fixed there. Yeah, but I just need to, and we are also going to add a breakpoint here to, yeah, to be able to take a look at stuff as it goes through the line. So we've now sent off a post request with the, wait, no parameter. Okay, because it hasn't returned yet, we don't get that information. That's lovely. So we're going to check in the debugger. So groups is set here. Okay. So groups is set if not groups. Okay. So far so good. And now we've extended that, and it still only has one. Oh, so that is interesting. Why does it even get a users group added? Because from the looks of it, the user object here that gets created, self users Bob groups. Yeah, that doesn't have a users group. Huh. Though it does get a is user flag, which in theory is okay, but wait. Okay, so we are going to let it save that, and then we are going to check how it persists it to disk. So where was that? I think here. Yep, Bob. Bob has a role user, but a group only of read only. Okay, now that is interesting. So it does get the right group settings already, so that works. That is possible. But for some reason, it then still gets the user's stuff assigned. Why? I mean, look at that here. Fascinating. Okay, I have no idea right now. But it's already... No, that's the wrong one. Where's Bob? It's not Bob. That's Bob. Here, when we get the response, it already has the... no, roles are separately implemented, Aaron. I think, at least. Wait, let me check. Roles are like the legacy version. No, they aren't. Let me... I have to dig up. Did I mention that this is stuff that I haven't touched in a while? So, let me check how that worked. I think it is a property that gets calculated on the group object. The role, I mean. So I have to find the group definition, which is here. So roles, no roles here. Okay. Key name description permissions, subgroups, needs. Oh yeah. That's going to be fun. Yeah, we're going to have to look at how it is being serialized to the YAML file in order to figure out where that roles attribute comes from, I guess. But right now, I'm not being very successful with that. Roles, user, and roles, user. Where does it get that from? If you see it, then please shout in the live chat, because right now I'm really not seeing it. So we define a groups entry here. Oh wait, a groups entry. We have to look in the users manager. That's the problem. We are saving users, not new groups. And there is roles. And it's going to be deprecated. That's good. User underscore roles. And where's the... Oh dear, what did I do? I did not want to join lines. I wanted to actually... No? Okay. I forgot how to look up a class definition. So we are going to scroll. Or rather, we're going to do that. And there is our user. And underscore roles. Yeah, self underscore roles. I still don't know where it comes from. Remove, blah, blah. No. Roles. If it has the permission admin, then it gets that. Otherwise, it only gets... Okay. Yeah. So I think we can ignore that, because that is a way for to provide backwards compatibility to the old authentication mechanism, because back until 1.3 so before 1.4.0 there was no granular permissions and therefore no permission system and all that, but there was this roles stuff that could be assigned to users, and there were only two roles, user and admin, and so you could only have user and admin, or only user, or none. But I think that is no longer used in the whole code base, apart from maybe plugins. I hope I'm not wrong. We are going to quickly check that. Well, yeah, okay, the remove role from user stuff is also backwards compatibility stuff, and that is the only parts where this is being used. Oh wait, maybe it's this thing that's to blame. So when we load the group, the user definition from disk, then we check if groups, if rules are in the attributes, but no permissions are in the attributes. So that is not the case. That cannot be the problem here. Yeah, because then we would do an auto migration and would and would add the user that way to the user, but I think that is not a problem here. I mean, we persist that, but we also persist the key. And we do not check here if there are actual permissions set. We only check if the permission key is present in the attributes. So that should not hold here. So the question again is, where does that thing get the user group from? And right now I'm a bit confused. So, I mean, it's not on disk, right? So we can just set a breakpoint here. Name, attributes, and data items. Let me quickly, yeah. So we can just set a breakpoint here and have it break when, where's my, there. When the name equals Bob, and then restart the server in order to trigger it to reload the user data from disk. And then maybe we get an idea on where that user group is coming from on that thing, because we did not save it like that. It should not be there, but for some reason it is. So we are going to walk through this. So permissions is in attributes and is empty. Groups is, oh, yeah, awesome. So this is the problem. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so we added here. If we read something from disk, we add the group, the user group here, regardless of whether it is there or not. So what we could do here is maybe, so I'm not entirely sure if this is a good idea, but we could I'm now wondering if it makes sense to remove that again. Yeah, okay. So what we do now is if self group manager read, oh, user group does have an entry, but read only group doesn't. So we need to change that. So if that thing is in groups, then sorry, then we remove self group manager user group again. So that when we arrive here should give us, for Bob at least, should give us, should give us a cleaned up group set, so to speak. So let's check that, if that works. I have no idea. And I also don't know if this has any side effects if we do that, but it's worth a try. So groups are in there. Okay, we've fetched the groups that are also persisted. So now we have the join set of the users group and the len2. Why cannot? Anyhow, so the groups now contains 2 items, and for some reason I cannot. Wait, it does. Why does it add this as a string? Oh, I once again forgot to disable the alarm that is usually supposed to signal that I should stop working. Okay, it's off now. Oh, right, we converted here. Okay, so what we're going to do instead is So we don't actually use this, but instead we use this constant here. Oof. Um, do I have this imported already? Access groups. The problem here is I cannot. Oh, can I? Can I import that? I can import that. Yeah, that makes it easier. So from OctoPrint access import read only group, because then we can jump back here, and if read only group in groups, then remove the user group, because we are now saying these are mutually exclusive, and we are going to check if that actually does work. Or I should have left that breakpoint. Oh wait. Okay, so groups is now only a set of one, which is only read only. Ugh. And if we now walk further here, we now create a new user in the system. Self users Bob, and Bob is still a user, is still authenticated, is not admin, not anonymous, is active, has only one group, read only, and has only the permissions that this provides him, and that looks okay. He can download, G-code viewer, access is also there, files list, settings read, so all the reading stuff is there, so the read only stuff is there, but none of the modification stuff. So the question is, what happens? Does the UI work? Because frankly, I have no idea. So we are going to check that. We are going to, attempt to reconnect, please. We are going to try to log in as Bob. And we are getting a read-only view. So that seems to work. I don't see any weird bugs or rather error codes here. So it doesn't try to fetch stuff it shouldn't be fetching. And I also do not see any exceptions being logged here. So that seems to do the trick. The problem now is that this is a bit too hard coded for my taste, I have to say. So you can also quickly check, Aaron, because you said I suspect the user's permission are still part of the user even after being removed from that group. No, they aren't, because the user is actually freshly created, so to speak, on every server restart, or the user definition from this here. And as you can see, we do not have permissions defined on them. We only have provided some, or have assigned the user to groups. So before that change we did, OctoPrint on load turned that into this. And these two things here, read only and user, those are what defines what permissions you get. Or rather, the permissions that are attached to these groups here, plus whatever you have here, define what permissions the user actually does have. So for example, if I now log out and log back in as admin, and I think I mistyped that, and then there I wanted to go. Oh, that thing is way making things way too small. And no, we do not want to update stuff now. If I now, for example, gave Bob an additional permission of, I don't know, he only also now can select files for printing, right? Then we run into our breakpoint again. But also it now gets, it should now have, okay, why? Bob Permissions, file select, save. So something apparently is now broke. Oh, wait. We modified it, and so it didn't updated it, but instead, right. And now it has the permission file select here as well. So Bob now has anything that read-only provides joined together with whatever single permissions are defined here. So that is actually okay. Looking good so far. The only thing is that I really do not like this bit. I mean, it works, yes, but it's so hard-coded. Then again, the read-only group is hard-coded in a way. Like, you cannot modify it, you cannot change it in any way. Or can you? Wait, let me check. It's really been too long since I last touched this stuff. So read-only XAR is not modifiable, cannot be deleted. Users can be modified but cannot be deleted. Guests can be modified but not deleted, and admins is also something that is not touchable. So from this point of view, it would actually probably be fine to say, well, read-only access can be hard, or rather having read-only access throw out the user group or prevent the user group from being added to the user here. That would work. I don't know. I'm not completely happy with this right now, with this approach. Because it's like, yeah, then again, I mean, we just add the user group there. Okay, let's change things slightly here. No, we cannot. We have to first do that. Sorry, I'm thinking loud here. I'm trying to avoid having to first set it in the set of groups and then remove it again. Yeah, we can do this. This is a bit less. So else groups is empty. Is an empty set. YouTube chat is holding messages for review. And I have to admit, I do not understand that, but I think I'm doing something close to that right now. So, and then if not read-only group in groups, then we do groups. Oops, that is here. No, we actually just, how do I add stuff? Just add, right? Yeah, that is easy. So self group manager dot user group. Okay, so what we do is I cannot add that if statement, Aaron, it is not valid Python. So and Sean, do I want to make users toggleable though? Do we want to? That is the question, of course. Do we want to allow users that have an account but who are not users? I mean, it's an option, of course, because then all that stuff there is a bit less of a fiddling around. Well, first of all, I want to check that this logic actually is sound, because that would be what I go for if. Oh, I should have limited it to Bob, but then I do not have these many users here. So yeah, so groups is only read only now. That's good. And if we execute this, yes, we only get the right one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It is. Did you try that, Sean? I mean, okay, we are going to try it. I'm pretty sure I had a reason why I marked it as read only, as not notifiable. Oh, it was here. The user group, but I'm starting to think that it will actually be cleaner to just make it toggleable. So we cannot remove it, but it can be toggled. The problem is if I give a user per default no permissions and tell people they need to check a box somewhere in order to make sure that the user actually can access OctoPrint, then they will not do that, and then I will get swamped in support requests about why the user cannot see. So the idea is that I'm trying to keep the old behavior here, like you create a user account and the user account has some basic set of permissions that over the years people has come to expect from a user account, while making it possible to adjust this to whatever you actually needed to do. So that makes this so challenging, because otherwise, of course, it would be easy. I just say, okay, user is a user, and by default, they do not have any permissions apart from being able to log in. And whatever happens next depends on how the admin sets stuff up. But then you have the problem with all those people out there who've been doing this like before for years, and now suddenly things have changed, and then I'm drowning in requests. So that is why I did it that way. And frankly, I do not want to change that now, because that would make it even worse, I think. Yeah, and backwards compatibility is also a problem. If you have a third-party plugin that relies on a logged-in user having a certain set of permissions and not, suddenly now they don't, then stuff, yeah, horrible stuff happens. That's an interesting idea. Make both of them default. Oh, Aaron, you still believe in people reading documentation? I have bad news for you. I mean, you're right, of course, that, yeah, but forget it. That you will not get people to actually change behavior by documenting the changed behavior. At least not from my experience of maintaining this project for the past, oh, my goodness, it's already 7.5 years. I'm getting old. Let's try this. We are going to make both read-only and the user group a default. If no other groups are set. That way you can just create a user like you always did and not pay any attention to the groups and permissions tabs. And you should get the same behavior than before, but you can also more granularly determine that the user should only have read-only access or have user access or have both. Both doesn't really make sense, but I mean, why not? Or actually, nah, we just make the user group toggleable. We add the read-only group. We keep that as it is, so people can edit or not, and then but they can also then remove the user group. And if they leave both on, then I cannot help them. And we also need to change some stuff here in the. Oh, okay, logged out again. Yay. We also need to change some stuff, I think, in the wording here on this access Hello? Okay, it just took a while. In this access control thingy here, or rather in the group description. So so users by default here is declared as all logged in users, but that of course is no longer true then, right? So maybe it should actually have been called read write access, but yeah, I'm not going to. Group to gain. Yeah, we are going to rename this into group to gain common user access or something like that. I'm taking wording suggestions now in the live chat because what else can I do? And yeah, so no, I wanted to go there. Minimum privilege, is it minimum though? I mean, you can start print jobs and stuff like that. Minimum control. Group to gain. I mean, it's not a privileged access, right? It's just a regular run-of-the-mill, I can control the printer kind of access that we are talking here. Let's... I'm afraid that people will think a privileged user is a common access. Yeah, okay, that's good. The thing is, usually a privileged user is more like an admin, though. So yeah, group to gain common access, and then all user permissions. Maybe something like that. Or not old, but rather user permissions up until OctoPrint 13x or something. Okay, so we redefine that, we make it toggleable, and then I think and we also need to make it be toggled by default for, I have no idea what I'm doing with my wrist right now. It's a bit painful. Maybe we should rename it in that case, like that, so that it says operator here. See, this is the thing where if it was just me using the software, I would immediately now say, oh, right, wrong name. We're just going to call that operator. If I now rename that, however, I really am a bit worried what will... I mean, it is just a name, right? It will not change that it is internally called user and stuff. But I'm going to change it for now, and then we'll sleep over it a bit tonight. So we have operator, we have... do we also need to change that maybe? I don't know. I think in that case we can also leave this out. Yeah, that is something that we will do through documentation in the hopes that for once someone will actually read it, maybe, I don't know. If I sound a bit frustrated with regards to documentation and it being read by people, then yeah, that's because I am. So it is default, it is removable, it is not removable, it is toggleable, and it will not be saved. Okay. What does this attribute do? I have no idea anymore, and I need to check first, because otherwise things will get weird. What does save do? It will not be saved to the group's YAML file. Okay, that's fine. So the question is, do we still need this stuff here then? I think not. Or do we? The question is, if no groups are set in the attribute, do we now want to provide it with the user group to have the default behavior in that regard, or don't we? Let's do it for now. And reevaluate that further down our adjustments, because now we have to actually take a look at the front end. Right now, if I go here and I say add user and I say groups, then this is not actually checked, and that needs to be changed. So we need to, what do we need to? We need to go to templates, dialog settings, access control, I think. Oh, great. It's all done through snippets. Is it though? Ooh. Yeah. Settings, access control, groups, group list, permission list, subgroup list. Ooh. Is it a group list? Checkbox. Checked. Parents, editor, groups, enable toggleable. So that is okay. There are, what was it again? There are 3 hard problems in development: naming things and off by 1 errors. Yeah. Yeah, naming stuff is actually I so this afternoon, or this morning rather, I spent a couple of hours probably trying to switch, or actually succeeding in switching over the page build for the plugin repository and OctoPrint.org and such to something powered by GitHub Actions. So in the future, I can use custom plugins for the static page builder so that we can provide some plugin stats and all that on the plugin page. So that was the first step towards that. And before I found out that GitHub only supports publishing of pages on a branch either called GH pages or master, I think I created 3 different branches to be used as publishing target. One was public, the other was pages. Then I had one published, and so in the end I settled on published and then realized I had to call it master. So but still, naming things really tough. Okay, so check the parent. Okay, we need to check the view model, not in the bubble there, because whether or not that is checked by default is determined by the view model. So apologies. So we need to check that. That would be in the, I think in Access.js. Is it? It doesn't look wrong per se. So we have an editor here, group selected. And when do we check that? We check it if $parents of one dot editor dot groups. What? That is slightly weird. Shouldn't it be like if it is in there? Well, maybe it does work like that. Does knockout checked work like that? Where's the checked binding? There's a checked binding. So it can take a boolean. That's what I know. But it can also take a binding to an array. Now look at that. So I wanted to go there. Checked value is key, and whether it's checked or not, it will then look up in this thing. Yeah, so we need to define default groups for a newly created user, and by default that thing is empty. And that of course is a bit stupid, because we actually wanted to have anything that is marked as default in there so that the user then can uncheck it or something like that. And for that, we need to access, oh dear, the groups. All of them. Oh, wait. Oh, look at that. It should actually be doing that already, because that here, current users, no, wait. Right, if I open the editor, the user editor, which is the thing that we use to add a user, and I don't have, so I'm not editing an existing user, but I'm actually editing a new one, then it should, in theory, set the groups dictionary array to all default groups. And for some reason, apparently that isn't working. But to make sure that that is actually the problem, we are going to have to work with a breakpoint in JavaScript, which is going to be fun again, because on just one screen, it's so hard to see anything here. Okay, first of all, we are going to restart because we already changed the group name and all that, and we want to not have some mismatch happening now between the server version and the front end and whatnot. So we are going to do that. Whew. And I think I have a bit of an oxygen issue right now in this room. Let me quickly fix that. So that should hopefully help a bit, because yeah, I mean, I am slightly tired, but I'm still yawning way too much right now. Okay, so access control. Why does that still say users? We did rename that, didn't we? And it shouldn't have saved it either. Where's the groups? Admin guest, printer, read-only users. Why does it save that? Because we adjusted it. Ooh. No. Okay, so apparently I cannot easily change the name and the description of that thing because it gets persisted to the YAML file, which of course is not that great, because that now means that after updating to this version, some people will see operator there and some people will see users. Yeah, that is something that I will also have to tackle, but not right now. Okay. If we now go here and we say add user and we go to groups, then yeah, now this is toggleable, but it's not toggled by default. And the question is why? So maybe it is easier to see if I put it to the, yeah, that did not help at all. If I dock it to the right, that could actually help. Yeah, okay. Now I just have to, okay. So we go into the debugger, into the packed core, I think, and then we are looking for access.js. I mean, Sean, it shouldn't even be broken. That is the problem that I'm currently looking at. I want to, this part where it calls this default stuff here, that should actually apply here, and for some reason it doesn't, and that is what worries me. So I've just set a breakpoint, and we are now simply going to, okay, there. So, oh dear, this is really hard to work with this little screen real estate here. And apologies for the church bells, which you're probably going to hear right now. Or maybe not. Maybe you're lucky and the mic isn't picking them up. Oh, it is so tricky to hit this very, very small part here. Oh, Okay, so we want this evaluated in the console, please. It is empty. Why? It shouldn't be empty. Okay, so where are the groups being? What was this even? Current user, right? This is when I add a user, right? And we now want to look for when we add a group, or rather when we, the whole group management thing. So when it requests the groups from the backend, which it probably does somewhere here, right? Then from response, defaults, defaults. So something here is not working right, and we are going to figure out what. So abort that, close that, refresh that, and I hope it will run into the breakpoint. Not that breakpoint, the other one. Oh yeah, it is in the right one. Okay. So we get a response that looks, oh, it's over here. Okay. Groups 0 is printer is not interesting right now. Test group is not interesting right now. Users. Default false. Why is it false? It should be true. Obviously, if it reports false here, it cannot possibly use that like it is supposed to be using that. We did set it to true. So something here is not properly working on the API, I guess. So if we take a look into what got transferred over network, groups up there. And in the response, no church bells. That's good because they are driving me nuts right now. So at least it's only me who's getting driven nuts and not you too. Default false, default false. So okay, something is already going wrong over the API. So next step, we have to take a look into the API and set a debug breakpoint there and try to figure out what is going wrong there. Server API access. We don't need this anymore right now. Not that one, not that one. This is all user stuff. We want the group stuff. Apparently that's somewhere else. Oh, it's up here. Okay. So we want to get access to the groups, and that for some reason doesn't work as it should. So we need to take a look into the sdict implementation and default self underscore default. Self underscore default usually false, but should be overridden. For some reason it isn't. So next step, we take a look at how our user group is actually, it was user, not users, right? How that is actually being initialized here, because for some reason, users, see, good thing I checked. Because for some reason, apparently this default flag is either not being properly set to true, or something else is going on here. But we need to restart and okay, someone outside is apparently smoking. Great. The default is true. Self default is true. Okay. So that is weird. So you saw that was true. That was also set to true. And now we are going to fetch that stuff, hopefully at least, in order to figure out... okay, something really went wrong right now. Now it is a bit better, but still slightly broken. Yeah, also that I constantly have to re-log in right now is, I think, something caused by a change that I did this afternoon, so I have to check that out at a later date. We only want to break here if self key equals users. Okay. So self, protected attributes, default. Why is it false all of a sudden? Change default. If not is changeable, group can't be changed. Self default equals default. Change description. That is so weird. So somewhere between initialization and querying it got changed. That is beyond weird. Oh. Wait. Oh crap. That's the reason. It's reading that from the file. So the same problem that we had with the description and the name thing now also applies to this flag. Why is this flag even being set? Why is the whole thing even being saved? Or rather, why is all of that stuff even... Oh, this is going to be ugly. Okay, but just to quickly check that the checkbox is actually correctly being set if this is true, so if the database is not broken, like it is now, we are going to do this. Did I save that? Yes, okay. This is slightly annoying, really, because now I have another bug to fix, or rather another issue to solve, plus this one, where it constantly logs me out. That is a weird location for a breakpoint. Oh, right, okay. Is the response now correct? Default true. Yeah, okay. And if I now continue and then go here and then go there and then add a new user, right? Then scrolling here is a bad idea. Then hopefully, yep. So now that is getting checked. So that is correct. That is really nice. So that is working now. What is not working is that it is loading that stuff wrongly from them. Okay, regardless, we're going to create a new user, Alice. And Alice is no longer a user. Alice is only a read-only user. Confirm. And that works. What happened to Bob, by the way? Oh, right, the same. Perfect. Yeah. So, and if I just add a regular user, Charlie, with password test, and I don't do anything, then he should be in the users thing. Yeah. Yep. So that is okay now, but what doesn't really work yet is, or rather what works a bit too well is the saving of this stuff. So for these things here, like admins and guests and read-only and users, so for the stock groups, it should not actually be saving them to disk, or rather just maybe the permission changes, but it is saving them. And that is a bit of a problem because it is saving the whole thing. So also the name and the description and the key, and I mean the key, okay, it has to save the key, but also the default flag, removable, changeable, toggleable. Wait, is it saving that? Well, at least it is not saving that, but the default flag it is saving, and that is a problem. Also, yeah, I can. Ooh. Yeah, see, this is maybe something that should not be. Should that be possible? That we unmark the users group now as a default group? I mean, if it ships by default like that, then I guess yes. Thoughts? I mean, let's say we are a new user. We have never touched a permission system before, and we just add a new user and things like this. Okay. In theory, we should maybe not get the idea that this is a good thing to do if we do not know what we are doing. So, or maybe we just add a little warning label here. Like, if you do that, then your users in the future will be broken unless you take a good look. Yeah, so. Aaron, there is an interface to manage groups. It's just behind the second tab. Yeah, I think I'll just add a warning label here and leave it editable. But we still have the problem with the. It wasn't a group list, it is the problem with the stuff being persisted that should not be persisted. Permission list, subgroup list. Yeah, I could add a confirmation window there, but then I'm a bit afraid of doing that because that will be a lot of boilerplate code just to only display it for the users group, and I'm thinking that maybe that is overdoing it. I'm simply going to give this a warning label, and that then has to suffice. I mean, I think it was this combination. I'm not entirely sure though, so we'll have to take a quick look. Oh wait, I need to make this translatable. Top, top, top. Top. So let's check. And I'm going to close this again for now. Access control. Come on, populate. Thank you. Edit that. Yeah, that is not the right color, but at least the general thing works. What was it? Warning error? Come on. Warning, important, info, inverse, success. Is this all? I'm slightly confused. Where else did we have that? On the serial log check mark in the settings, so we can just quickly maybe take a look at additional serial port, try to connect automatically serial port, blah 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 blah. Uncheck this if you're having no. Apply parameter 9. There. Important. Okay, and here we have it on the level of the checkbox, so we also put it here on the level of the checkbox, of course. So here. Let's try that again. Access control, and we wait. Why is it taking so long right now? It's weird. Users. Yeah. I mean, the warning applies in both directions too, right? I mean, if you set this on, can you set that? Wait. No, you can't. But if you create a custom admin group and you set this, then it's also a case of warning. Are you sure you should be doing that? So that applies in both directions, which is really nice. Why is it marking this as? Because I forgot to close the span. Okay. So that is solved, but it's still saving too much. Oh wait, users, we are in groups. So we save false. So why is it saving? That's a bit weird. No, that is load, and that is save. Yeah, because I'm simply ignoring that flag completely, apparently, which is a bit weird. So what we actually wanted to do is we want to save the permissions and the subgroups and whether it is a default group or not, but we do not want to. No, do we want to save it? Yeah, we want to save if it is a default or not. But we do not want the name and the description to save. Oh dear. The problem is if we just do not persist it, then the stuff will still be incomplete. So because when we load this, we simply take this data here and turn it into a group definition. We do not touch the default stuff again, and that is a bit tricky now. Ugh. Oh. This ticket gets uglier and uglier from minute to minute. Also, I have a kink in my neck. So when we load and it is already there, then we set some defaults. But if we can do this, like we set a default removable, I think that works. So the thing is, when OctoPrint starts up, it will pre-populate the group list of the group manager with the default groups, and then it will load anything that is in the YAML file. And what we right now do is that we completely override the permissions, the subgroups, the description, the default, the name, and all that. And what we instead will now do is, instead of leaving this empty if it is not unset, no wait, yeah, right. So we are going to also take over name from the default that we have defined that is already populated like this. I think I have to check if this is actually correct, but that is easily done in a second. And otherwise, we will take this and this. So, and then that is just name, and the description is the description. And then we will make it so that it no longer persists this data to disk here. if the, wait, let me quickly think. Right, we are going to quickly remove that. And if the group dot is, where do we persist this safe state thingy again? How do we call that? Oof, this is not helpful. Where's the group definition? Group already, blah blah blah. Oh wait, we do not persist this on the group itself? Oh, that gets worse and worse. Great. Okay. So save. What happens here? What do we do? That does something completely different than I thought it would be doing. What it is supposed to do? Why isn't it documented? Ah! Now I get it. Nice. Okay. So we're going to do things slightly differently, apparently. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So this whole definition here, this whole safe false stuff, that does things slightly differently than I thought. I thought it meant that safe equals false means this group is not supposed to be safe, but it only means that this add group call is not supposed to save immediately, because we will do that right away after we have initted the defaults or something like that. So instead, what we need to do in order to figure out if the current group that we are looking at is part of this default group set is we need to define that in a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract that into its own class constant here, like that. And this is going to be a list, I think, of dictionaries that are like that. So admin group and name and description. Of course, yeah, wonderful. Actually, let me quickly maybe make this a bit less horrible to work with. Also, right. And we get to do that for everything else. At least we can copy paste that stuff. Ugh. It gets even worse. We cannot use a class definition because we need access to self. So instead, we are going to do this. Then this is getting moved down here into the init defaults method and renamed to self.default groups. So now we have a default groups thing that we can access, and that also needs to still get filled with the other stuff. You know what? We are going to simply copy paste that. And user group operator group to gain operator access permissions. Actually, we can just do that. This is also empty. Default is true. We have to copy paste that apart from the save thing, because we do not actually need that as part of that definition set. And then another one. Come to think of it, that should actually not be a list but a dict, with all these things being the keys. Yeah. Though, nah. We leave it at that for now, simply because it makes it a bit faster to do some stuff now. And we copy that, we paste that, we copy that, that, empty, removable, toggleable, false. Save is not being used. Also, we forgot the subgroups. And the final one, the read-only group. The one group with which all this Odyssey today started. Read-only group, empty subgroups, changeable false, removable false, toggleable true, and actually I think we're going to make this explicit. So changeable is true, default is false, changeable is true, default is true, removable is false, toggleable, changeable, default, removable, toggleable, changeable, removable, default, toggleable, changeable, removable, default, toggleable, true. Okay, so we have that now, and now we are going to iterate over each of these for group dev in self.group default groups. And then we are going to call self-add group we are not going to make it like that. I want something shorter, because we're now going to do a bunch of this stuff. Key, G, name, G, description, G, permissions, G, subgroups, and then changeable G dot get, no, right, we set defaults, yeah. On the other hand, let's make it that way. Just in case we ever forget, the default to changeable is true. The default for removable is also true. The default for default is is false. And the default for toggleable is also toggleable. This is such a weird word, and I hope it's not even wrong. Is also false. Is true. What am I doing? So by default, groups are changeable, removable, and toggleable and not the default group to add to everything and their mother. So this should still do the same thing as before. Only now Gina realizes that she should in fact have done this with a key value map here. Oh. Ah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we need to indent that. I mean, we don't necessarily need to indent that, but we do want to indent that because that will make it look a bit nicer. No, that was correct actually. Okay, never mind. Come to think of it, nah. So we now have a default group indexed by keys, and so wait, that should actually be that. And we're going to do this and this, because now we are iterating over a dictionary, and so we do not actually need this here, but instead use that. And also we can actually remove this stuff here. Okay, so now we have a default groups dictionary that maps from the group name to the definition of the default group. And what we are now going to do is on load, now on load we are already doing this correctly, but on save we are only going to only going to write the name and the description to the file if the key of the group is not in. Oh god, no, not in. If not key in, this is actually, yeah. If not key in self default groups. So in that case, we also say groups of key, which we just defined as a dict. The name is I think just group.name. And the key is the description is group.description. And then we write that to disk. So we will only write the name and the description to disk for stuff that is not in the default groups. And we will always use the existing name and description for stuff that is in the set of default groups. And actually, I think this would be cleaner if we did this instead here as well. So we are not going to do this weird convoluted stuff here, but instead are simply accessing our default groups dictionary, which makes it way more straightforward. Oopala. So if a group is a default group, then we take these settings from the default group definition. Otherwise, we take it from we set some stuff to default values, and we take it from the supplied attributes that are persisted here. So even though it has the description set here, from now on it will just, in the name, it will just ignore that data because it will fall back to the default. We still have the problem with the default value here, so the actual default key not being handled like that, because that should be changeable. But yeah, that is something that we will add or tackle next. Or maybe that's something that I might actually tackle off screen. I'm not sure yet, or off stream rather. First of all, we want to make sure that this now works, so we can actually remove this for now. Then just let me quickly take a quick look again if this actually makes sense like this. So name, description, permission, subgroups, changeable, removable, default, and toggleable. And no, config files aren't localized. The only stuff that is localized is the UI. Toodle-toodle-doo. And then we add all that is the add group parameterization. Okay, self key, name, description, permissions, key, name, description, permissions, subgroups. Default, removable, changeable, toggleable. Save is all right. Save must be set to false for all of these, like this. Oh, right. Yeah, so that should work, hopefully. Yep. Admin test, remember me, go. And hopefully we should now see this reflected in the name of the user group, which now is called operator. Group to gain operator access. Huh? Works. Looks good. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. That's good. And now the question why this stuff even was false in the first place. And that might have actually been a change that I did during development, and it is not so this was false, and is not something that happened because of a bug or something, but because I changed stuff. Let me quickly check first, though, if I rewrite the group thing. We are just simply going to add a quick test group that has the control permission. Confirm. Something broke. Ah, what is wrong now? No, that is still that weird problem. But that is unrelated to this network. Confirm. Okay. 409. Why do I get a 409 on the API? Ah, 99 bucks on the wall, 99 bucks. Shoot one down, take it out, 129 bucks on the wall. La la la. 409. On group creation, right? So here, I'm not even sure how. What? 409. That is weird. I mean, it shouldn't even be able to do a 409 here. Oh, right. Group already exists. Test already exists. Why didn't it show it? Okay, something is fishy here. Because... No, wait, there's a test group, but not a test. So I called it test and not test group, and it still claims it is existing. Why does it do that? Oh, yeah. Let's try that again. Test, test, confirm, bam. So we are diving in there. If key in self groups, okay, now where's that from? I'm so confused right now. You won't believe that. We are going to restart the server. And then we're going to log in again. I really need to fix this issue. And then we're going to check. There's definitely no, it's definitely not showing all of them right now. It should have a camera group, a printer group, and a test group, and for some reason those don't show up there. Do they get returned by the server? I mean, my money is on the answer being no, but still I want to check. Admins, guests, read only, operator, and everything else is not there. Okay, so the problem is that, but why? So it's probably an API issue, or at least that's my current guess. Oh god, it doesn't end. So something is going wrong while it loads the group data from disk, which we modified, so that would not be really that surprising if something broke there, right? So we are simply going to set a breakpoint here. Wait, yep. Yeah, groups and users don't share a namespace, so that should not be a problem actually. Yeah, restart is, I think, is the best idea here. So it could be that this is the first time that the stream doesn't end on a result. Apologies in advance if this happens. I mean, we did have some results, but key in, else below. Actually, I want to go there, but it might be that we do not close the ticket this time, but I will then close it tomorrow. Read only, so it sees that, and then it just does nothing more. What? Groups, admin's camera, guest, printer, blah. That should all trigger that thing. Okay, we're going to actually set the breakpoint a bit earlier because I want to take a look at it. Read only, printer, test group, users, camera, admins and guests. So they are all in there. And then we are iterating over that. If key in self default group. So that should only be the case for a very, very, very limited amount of items. If key in self default groups. What key are we talking about? Read only. That's okay. Is changeable? Oh! Now look at that. We are running into an exception, and that is the problem here. But for some reason it's not being, or it is being locked and I simply didn't see it? Oh, look at that. Dict object has no attribute. Right. Yes, because that should be get changeable. Okay, so that was the issue probably. All that stuff here needs to be get name Oh, that was the wrong key. Get description, get removable. Okay, oh, now I'm confused. How did I call it? Did I also do that up here? Yeah, okay, good. Removable. Removal is by default true. Changeable is by default true. And toggleable is also by default true. Okay, next try. And now it should hopefully not run into exceptions while it's trying to read stuff from disk. Yeah, for key is, can remove that. That looks way better. Printer, test group, users, camera, guests, spam. Okay, so now it's loading again. Yeah, the server is not actually currently offline. You just didn't notice this yet. No, there you go. Come on, load. Is it hanging in a breakpoint again? Ah, no, it has this kind of problem. Sometimes I really hate Windows so much. Hello. There we go. Okay, and then access control, admins, operator, admins, operator, camera operator, printer. Look at that. Okay, that looks way, way better. Okay, now let's try adding a group. Test. No subgroups, right? No, nothing. And it, yeah, that's okay. Group object has no attribute name. Nice. Okay, next problem. It wasn't called name. How was it called then? Have to quickly check the group. Get name. Okay, that was helpful. Is this a property? No, it is a, okay. So instead of .name, we do get name and get description. Next try. Rinse and repeat. Okay. Ooh. So let's try that again. Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, sorry. Yeah, okay, so that works again. So we can add stuff, and also it should have cleaned up here. Yeah, so user and, sorry, title and description are no longer being persisted here. For the test group, they are null, which is slightly wrong, I think. Read only doesn't get it persisted. Printer gets it persisted. That's okay. Camera as well. Why is it null for the test group, though? It could also be a data issue when I created that, which was ages ago, so I'm not entirely sure. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to check is if I actually save the default state with the value false for... or rather how a default OctoPy will look like. So I think OctoPy 3 is online. That's the Pi 3 running a current version from OctoPy. Yeah, from the last update checks. There's no printer attached to this and nothing. It's just, I just want to take a look how things behave here. So users is a default group here. That sounds like how it should be. So probably the fact that it was persisted as default off in my version, in my local version, was because at one point I removed this checkbox here. And the only reason why I didn't notice was because the users group was being added to all users anyhow, which we no longer do now. So I'm just going to... Oh, the description can be edited. That is not so optimal. Okay. Ah, well, we can leave it like that. And wait. Oh, I did not change this right now, right? It vanished. That's not good. That means we have an issue with the default flag in 140 outside in the field. So if we now introduce this part where the users group no longer gets added by default to a user, things will get ugly in the field because of this bug where the users group is not... Apparently once you change anything about it, it gets persisted the wrong way. I don't know why, but that seems to be a problem. Is the other OctoPy still there? That looks good. Same setup, slightly different version. Yeah. Yeah, so right now it's not there and it's not persisted on disk, I think. Let me quickly check. No, not groups. It doesn't even have a groups YAML because we only have default groups. Okay, so we are going to add one as a test to have it write to disk. So that didn't remove the default. Still has it set to true here, okay. But if I now edit that thing, it's gone. Because it didn't set it here, even though it was the default, right? That was the problem. Yeah, but that is a bug for another day, because it's already almost 7, and I don't know if you just heard that, but yeah, I have a bit of a rumbling stomach issue right now. But just to quickly explain this to Aaron, so I can have this set as default and also this set as default. And that's possible. So if I now create a new user, then those will both be checked by default. So I could also have it, yeah, have guests be a default. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I need to remove that somehow. But yeah, you can mark multiple groups as default roles, and then any new user that you add will automatically have these pre-selected. That doesn't mean they get added to the user automatically. You can still change that here, but well, at least in the current version that we just changed down in the IDE, you can, because here it is still disabled. But yeah, so whenever I change a group in some way, if I just change the description or something, the default flag vanishes, and that is a bug. And probably caused by the default flag not being properly set. Let me, oh, we can actually just, I think we can just do this and then quickly restart that server. I am on 2. Yes, I am on 2. And that should hopefully reset the situation for us so that we can quickly take another look. Because I could imagine that it was just a problem that when I changed it, the default checkbox was not set due to some issue on the front end, maybe, and that was the issue. But yeah, we'll have to see. Come on, you can do it. Go, 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 go. There you go. Okay. Access control. Groups. Users has it back. And now we go here. Now it's set. We abort. We go here again. It's still set. We change something here and we confirm. And something happens that kills this default flag. Well, probably because we send it as null. Yeah, okay, so that is something that I need to tackle tomorrow. Definitely not something that I want to open up today. For now, what we can do is, at least the stuff that we did here is working. So we have default groups, and we add them this way now, and then down here we make sure to keep name and description from the default group setting, and also use it here. And on persistence, we only write the name and description if we are not part of a default group in order to clean up the YAML a bit. And in users, we no longer need that. In users, where are the changes? There. In users, we take the default groups, the groups as provided to the add user command, and if that is not provided, then we use the user group. And that was that, right? That was all. I mean, in theory, we probably don't even need that change, but sometimes it's a bit sad how little I mean, the number of lines that we touched here is fairly short. I mean, we have a bit of refactoring of this data structure here, but in principle, everything is still the same stuff and just a loop that we added here. And then some minor logic down here, and that is all. And that changed a whole ton of behavior. And it cost us about 2 hours of work. Yeah, that is a bit... The question is now, do I define this as a bug or as a... Yeah, that's a bug. Fix read-only group behavior. User group is no longer enforced on all users and has to be added. Not necessarily. It is... It is a default group by default. That sounds a bit broken. It is added to new... No, it is pre-checked for new users unless made non-default. That will be pushed to maintenance, Sean. It is pre-checked for new users unless made non-default, but can be disabled. That makes it possible to have users without groups and thus no permissions. So beware. To do issue with default equals false being written to groups YAML causing the users group to not be enabled by default will be solved in another commit. C closes ticket number 3547. Right. So that should hopefully now land here. Also, we should have marked this actually as confirmed bug before because I already confirmed it. I just forgot to mark it. Milestone will be 141. Ticket triad was first to fix, then fixing, then solved. And it's now solved. I usually do not, Sean, I do not usually push unfinished stuff to maintenance. The thing is that this bug with the default thing, that is a different issue. I mean, the change that we did for this specific ticket, that is now finished. We just run into something else, we ran into something else that makes this a bit tricky on deployment, on rollout, and that still needs to be tackled. But it's a different issue. And actually, I think I'm quickly going to create a new issue for that so I don't forget it. I'm going to do something that none of you will ever do, please. Because I'm doing basically a reminder issue. Default equals false is written to groups YAML even when checked for the default. We only have checked it for the users group. Problem when saving a description or other change for the users group, the default flag gets toggled off. That causes issues in the field as soon as the fix for, we do it that way, as the fix for 3547 gets rolled out, since that will no longer enforce the users group to be applied to all logged in users. Solution, figure out why that is the case. So this is more like one of the tickets that I write for myself so that I have something to reference in a commit note and stuff, so that I don't get confused by things, and also so that I can assign it to the milestone. And yeah. And we also push this into the ticket triad project. And we already know that this is a bug that needs fixing, so we can immediately push it into that column. So, okay. Oh, So I think we can call it a day now. At least my stomach is of the very, very, very strict opinion that we need to call it a day now, because otherwise I will start to digest myself, and we do not want that. So I hope it was interesting again. I'll do the next one next week. I'm going to switch to more like weekly pattern now, and once the pandemic situation calms down a bit, which will hopefully be soon. Personally, I think they are lifting the lockdown a bit too early here in Germany, but okay. I will also maybe switch to something like bi-weekly or so, because it's eating a ton of time. But it's also fun. So thank you to everyone who was here today and participated in the live chat and looked over my shoulder while I was trying to not make a fool out of myself while tackling this issue. And as I said, the next one will probably be next week, maybe Tuesday again. I'm not entirely sure yet, because on Tuesday there's also a different appointment on my a family thing on my agenda that I'm not yet sure. So something dear to someone from my family will have surgery on that date, so I'm not entirely sure how things will go and if I will be too nervous maybe to do this. So it might be that I do it on a Wednesday or something. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll have to no next Wednesday. I already have. We'll have to see. I'll figure something out. For those of you on the $5 and up Patreon level, also keep in mind that this Friday there's the next OctoPrint on Air scheduled, and the link is in the Patreon description, in a Patreon post in the corresponding. Which is also why this Friday is definitely not going to be another code and chat. And apart from that, I just hope, as I said already, it was interesting, and hope to see you next time again. And until then, just try to stay healthy, wear a mask, wash your hands and all that, and of course, as always, happy printing. Bye.